It's been just over a week since the SASSA payments glitch, and many pensioners across the country have still not received their social grants. The Ministers of Social Development and Communication are expected to give an update this afternoon on the causes of this glitch and a way forward to prevent it from happening in the future. But social justice group Black Sash is calling for, among other things, an independent investigation into the systemic flaws of Postbanks' payment system. In fact, Black Sash's KZN regional manager, Evashnee Naidu, joins us for more this morning. Evashnee, it's great to see you. Thanks very much indeed. Before we get to those systemic flaws that Black Sash is talking about, I want us to just focus for a moment on really the tragedy of what's taken place over the past week here, with pensioners queuing in vain.
Absolutely. I mean, as many of us would know, the news broke early on Tuesday morning, which was the first day of the payment cycle, which deals directly with the older person's grant, which is the elderly. And by 9 a.m., we saw that the system was breaking down completely across the country, where beneficiaries were trying various payment channels in order to access their monthly pension and failing dismally for either failed transactions, no balances showing on their bank cards, inability to withdraw, etc., etc. I mean, this created such havoc across the country that led to beneficiaries having to sleep over at sites because they didn't have the necessary money to travel back home. Households were without food and are still without food because many beneficiaries still haven't been paid yet. People have even had to take out loans in order to travel on a daily basis to various payment channels in order to check whether their grants are there or not. And amongst this is the failed transaction fees that they have been incurring over the week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just absolutely an indictment on the entire system. Has there been enough of urgency, do you reckon, to try and get this resolved immediately?
Well, this is not the first technical glitch that we're experiencing. Ever since Postbank took over the full operation of the payment of grants in October 2022, from November 2022, we have been plagued with a multitude of technical challenges and glitches which have impacted on the most vulnerable in our country and which have put the integrity of the social grant payment system at risk. And so, where is the urgency? Where is the risk mitigation strategies? Where is the reports telling us as the South African public and beneficiaries, this is what has happened, these are the measures we've put in place, these are the timeframes we've been using to work on this, and this is what we're going to do to ensure that this never happens again. That has not happened. This is why we are now calling on both these ministers to please put an independent inquiry into place, to find out what is happening, to put timeframes into place, and to make this report public so that we can hold them accountable against what they're saying they are doing about this.
Yeah. I mean, as you say, it's not the first time by any means that this has happened, that people have been left in the lurch in the worst way possible. You know, people depending literally for their livelihoods to put food on the table for this money to come in. So the ministers are holding a media briefing today at, at 1 o'clock. Excuse me. Before that, SASSA had said, Evashnee, that there would be a penalty in the future if Postbank does, if this does happen at Postbank again. What do you make of that kind of strategy from SASSA?
So there is a master service agreement that should have been signed between SASSA and Postbank when the contract was ceded from the post office to Postbank. We have had numerous delays with regard to the finalization and signing of this master service agreement. So we don't know what the terms and conditions are. We don't know what penalties, if any, are to be imposed. So this is very difficult for us as civil society and for the taxpayers to track that this is actually indeed in place. And if so, how harsh are these penalties to ensure that this does not happen again? Yep. So as the Black Sash, we are calling on the minister to ensure that this master service agreement is finalized, signed, and made public so that we can hold these entities accountable for breaches of this magnitude.
Yeah, so it's not just about fixing the breach now. I mean, hopefully we're going to hear from the ministers as well how people will be reimbursed for those penalties that they are now liable because of the lack of funds in their accounts, right?
Absolutely. I mean, on a daily basis from last week, beneficiaries have tried between 3 to 5 different payment channels and different banks in order to check whether their grants are there. This has meant failed transaction fees, reversal of fees, etc., 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 which has eroded that already small value of the grant. And this has happened not just once or twice, but throughout the week. So the minister of the Department of Social Development needs to confirm that all these failed transaction fees will be reversed and the beneficiaries that have been affected will get the full value of the grant as speedily as possible, because people are still encountering issues until today.
So you're saying even today people are unable to access their social grants?
We are getting reports from across the country of beneficiaries who are still going to post offices, to retailers to check, and are being turned away, sent to SASSA offices. SASSA officials are telling them to open a bank account in order to ensure that this doesn't happen again, but nobody's talking to them about their September's amount that they are entitled to.
Yeah.
And beneficiaries are not understanding that this money is not going to follow them to their bank account. They would still need to follow up on the monies that are owed to them on the SASSA SD card, and that is going to take time until it is fully resolved. It is not yet fully resolved.
Sure. This is a heartbreaking situation. What's your advice now to beneficiaries as Black Sash? I mean, for next month's payment cycle, is there help available to try and open up new bank accounts so that at least beneficiaries for October don't have to rely on Postbank then?
The one thing I can say, SASSA officials have been on the ground over the past year, making sure that they enter communities, they preach the message at all pay sites that beneficiaries who do not want to continue with these kinds of challenges need to open bank accounts. SASSA officials are standing with the Annex C form, which is a form they need to take to the bank to get the bank to fill in. They drop it off at any SASSA office. SASSA officials are pushing as hard as they can to ensure that if you drop off your change of payment method in this month, by next month your new details should reflect on the system and you will be able to use a bank card in order to draw your card and not have to use the SASSA card.
Yeah, that seems like the only solution here, right? I mean, do we want to try and remove Postbank from the grants payment cycle altogether, because clearly they're not reliable?
The challenge that we face as the Black Sash is that we do not know what due diligence the Department of Social Development did to ensure that Postbank was indeed capable to handle a contract of this magnitude for over 18 million beneficiaries across the country, not to mention the 350 Rand grant that they are also administering, which is also plagued with technical challenges at the moment. So we're saying to the ministers that you need to get your house in order, and if you are not able to do that, then you need to put viable alternatives in place that do not pose a burden and a cost on the beneficiary. And if that means bank charges, then it means that you as the department need to also subsidize those bank charges for beneficiaries who are now being pushed into bank accounts because of the failure of government to ensure a state measure that can take care of them and protect their interests.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Black Sash, Evashnee, what are the big questions that you'll have for the two ministers today, Lindiwe Zulu and Monli Gungubele? And for me, it's reimbursing beneficiaries for those payments, those charges to their accounts as a result of failed transaction. That certainly is high up on the agenda, isn't it?
Absolutely. That is the first issue that we would like them to address, because obviously this is the lifeline to these beneficiaries. There are households that have gone hungry for an entire week because of this, or have been trapped into a cycle of debt because of this, and that needs to be reversed. We definitely want to highlight the fact that there needs to be an inquiry into Postbank's capacity, these technical glitches, what the reasons are for this, what the timeframes are for this, what it is costing South Africa in order to pay for all of this, and to ensure that Postbank is a viable entity, and to make this report public so that we can track this. And obviously to ensure that if you are going ahead with Postbank as your service provider, that master service agreement needs to be signed. It needs to be made public so that we as civil society can track it and hold you accountable and hold Postbank accountable if there are any further breaches that undermine the integrity of the social grant payment system.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, of course, let's expedite getting people bank accounts so that it can stop having these kinds of issues.
Exactly. And being as protected as possible.
Yeah. Evashnee Naidu, let me thank you for your time this morning. Such an important conversation. We'll keep our eyes on this discussion as well. That briefing by the two Ministers of Social Development and Communications and Technology, Lindiwe Zulu and Monli Gungubele, taking place at 1 o'clock this afternoon. And these are some of the important questions, certainly, that we'll be putting to those ministers as well.